where the structural layer of a page is the HTML markup, and the presentation layer of a page is made up of cascading style sheets. The third, behavioral layer, is written in JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language that adds interactivity and custom behaviors to websites. In this basic example, a function named displayMessage is written to pop up an alert with the greeting "Hello World" when a user clicks anywhere on a page. As presented in this example, JavaScript is written within the script tags. And in this case, the script tags are nested in the head tags. JavaScript is a client-side scripting language, which means that it runs on the user's machine and not on the server as the server-side scripting language PHP does. This means JavaScript relies on the browser's capabilities and settings. Browsers are packaged with a JavaScript engine and are able to read and interpret the code in real time. That said, JavaScript may not be available if the user has turned it off or if a device does not support it. For this reason, it's a good idea to use the NoScript tag on pages using or requiring JavaScript. Using the NoScript tag, you may let users know that the page uses JavaScript and it should be enabled. The content inside the NoScript element will only be displayed if scripts are not supported or are disabled in the user's browser. Otherwise, it is ignored and will not appear on a page. Client-side JavaScript adds behaviors to otherwise static web content. Anyone with a web browser and a simple text editor has a complete development environment, just as with HTML or CSS. JavaScript is an interpreted language, meaning that it is saved in the same format that you entered it, and it is interpreted at runtime. Client-side JavaScript combines the scripting ability of a JavaScript interpreter with the document object model defined by a web browser. The opening script tag and closing script tag are used to embed JavaScript code in an HTML file. It may be placed in the head tag or body tags. Place it in the head tags if you wish to execute a script when a page loads. The location of your script is the part of the document it writes to by default. It is best to group your JavaScript in one or two locations. For most scripts, the end of the document just before the closing body tag is the preferred placement because the browser will be done parsing the document and its structure. Consequently, the information will be ready and available by the time it gets to the scripts, and they can execute faster. In addition, the script download and execution blocks the rendering of the page, so moving the script to the bottom improves the perceived performance. You may also include files of JavaScript code. Do so within the head tags. This is a preferred way of using third-party JavaScript files. The structure of an HTML page is referred to as the Document Object Model, or DOM. This is the tree structure present in HTML. To understand the DOM, consider each element an object. Just as one uses CSS selectors to apply specific sets of rules to specific tags, classes, or IDs, one may use the same tags, IDs, or classes to write JavaScript functions to those elements or objects. Consider each HTML element or named classes or IDs as unique objects. For example, above all HTML elements is the document itself, and one may use the term document to target the entire document. Document.write is the method used to dynamically output HTML text into an HTML document while it is being loaded into the browser. The term method is the object-oriented term for function or procedure. One may also employ user events to trigger JavaScript functions. For example, the onClick attribute, shown in this example, holds a string of JavaScript code that is executed when the user clicks the button. In this case, the onClick event handler calls the alert function. My goal in this video is to present a general understanding of JavaScript, including what it looks like and how it is used. The lexical structure of a programming language is a set of elementary rules that specifies how you write programs in that language. JavaScript is a case-sensitive language. This means that language keywords, variables, function names, and any other identifiers must always be typed with a consistent capitalization of letters. JavaScript ignores spaces, tabs, and new lines that appear between tokens in programs. Simple statements in JavaScript are generally followed by semicolons. Just as you separate multiple CSS rules in a declaration, the semicolon serves to separate statements from each other in JavaScript. Comments may be written in the same manner as with other programming languages, such as PHP, Java, C++, or C. A double forward slash is used for a single line comment. For a multiple line comment, use the forward slash asterisk and close it with asterisk forward slash. Now for some of the vocabulary. A literal is a data value that appears directly in a program. The following are all literals. 12 for the number 12, 1.2 a decimal or floating point. In double quotes, hello world is a string of text. Also in single quotes, hi is another string of text. True and false each represent a Boolean value. Forward slash JavaScript forward slash GI is a regular expression or literal that is used for pattern matching. And null is the absence of an object. An identifier is simply a name. In JavaScript, identifiers are used to name variables and functions, and to provide labels for certain loops in JavaScript code. The rules for legal identifier names are the same in JavaScript as they are in Java and many other languages. The first character must be a letter, an underscore, or a $sign. Each of these represent a legitimate identifier. JavaScript has a number of reserved keywords. These are words that you cannot use as identifiers, that you cannot use as variables or function names or loop labels. These words have special meaning to JavaScript. They are part of the language syntax. Computer programs work by manipulating values, such as the number 3.4 or the text, hello world. The types of values that can be represented and manipulated in a programming language are known as data types. And one of the most fundamental characteristics of a programming language is the set of data types it supports. JavaScript allows you to work with 3 primitive data types: numbers, strings of text, known as strings, and Boolean truth values, true or false. JavaScript also defines 2 trivial data types, null and undefined. In addition to these primitive data types, JavaScript supports a composite data type known as an object. An object represents a collection of values. It is data with properties and methods. Nearly everything in JavaScript is an object. Strings, dates, arrays, functions are all considered objects in JavaScript. An array is a group of values, and a function is an object with executable code that will execute an operation. You can also create your own objects. The reserved term var is used to declare a variable. When naming a variable, begin with the lowercase letter. Do not use spaces, And you may use the underscore, but do not use any other special characters. It's also useful to try to relate the name of the variable to its function in a program. Below is a string variable, var, to declare the variable greeting, and give it the value, in quotes, hello, how are you, a string literal. The declaration of a numeric variable does not require quotes for its value, since it is a number. Var, to declare the variable score, equals 0, so it's given the numerical value 0. An array is used to group a set of values. The values may be strings or it may be numeric data. Since an array is a variable, var is used to declare it, then it is given a name, and its value is set in brackets. Each value in an array needs to be separated by a comma. To manipulate variables, one may use operators, and there are 4 different types of operators. Arithmetic operators are used to perform arithmetic between variables and/or values. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, remainder, increment, and decrement. Assignment operators are used to assign values to JavaScript variables. Comparison variables are used in logical statements to determine equality or difference between variables or values. And logical operators are used to determine the logic between variables or values. String concatenation is the combining of strings. In strings, the / is used to escape characters. For example, if you wish to add a quote to a string, the second set of quotes that you want to appear as part of the string must be escaped. So here, the / is used to insert quotation marks within a string. Functions are used to separate out sections of code that perform a particular task. When declaring variables, you will set the scope of the variable by its placement in a program. A variable placed outside of any function is a global variable. Local variables are defined within a function. An expression is a combination of values, variables, operators, and functions that result in a value. The result can be a number, a string, or a Boolean value, which will evaluate to either true or false. I'm going to use a simple calculator to demonstrate JavaScript. On the left is the markup for a form, and on the right is the representation of the form via the browser. Each form element has a unique ID, beginning with the form itself with the ID budget. Following the field set markup, there are 3 inputs. Each one is a text input, and each one has an ID. They are rent, bills, and allowance. That is followed with an input with the type submit that will act as the button that will call the function calculate. Following the submit button, there is one more input. It's also a text input, and it has the ID total. This will present the calculation of having added each of the 3 other inputs. Below the closing form tag and before the closing body tag, I'm adding an opening and closing script tag. Nested within the script tags is the JavaScript that will make the form work. I'm using strict mode to write my JavaScript. Since JavaScript is a very loose language that can be messy, I opt for the strict mode. In the calculate function, I declare 4 variables. One variable for each of the inputs in the form. I use the dot syntax to drill down to each input's ID, and I use the input's value for the variable value. The first 3 input values are user-generated when one fills out the form. The fourth variable is named total, and for its value, I use the parseInt JavaScript function to take the text strings from the form inputs and turn them into integer type variables, so that they may become numbers that can be added. I add all 3 values for the total value. Finally, I drill down to the total text input in the form and pass it the variable value of total. I use the initialize function to tell the form that when the submit button is released, the calculate function is executed. And lastly, the initialize function is made available once the page is loaded.